So very good evening to all of you. On behalf of the ET Brand Equity and Clever Tab, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to the Big Leap Rise with Retention Roadshow, the Delhi chapter. Join me in welcoming our esteemed panel as they uncover the need to keep users engaged and hooked on to the platforms to unlock true growth. I'd like to first call in upon the CMO of Just Dial, Prasun Kumar. Prasun is a seasoned marketing professional, a brand expert, blogger, technology enthusiast, and entrepreneurial at heart. With over 20 years of experience across internet, real estate, retail, telecom, and advertising industries, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Prasun Kumar, CMO Just Dial.
So welcome panelists. First of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this, helping us understand what retention actually is, and where retention stands in each of your businesses. Right. So Madhukar already introduced you all, and you really don't need any introduction. So I'll straight away start with the Q&A. I'll move on to Prasun sir here. Sir, you really have a problem of plenty at your hand, right? So you are a horizontal, player who has several categories. So one Just Dial consumer can be of different characteristics. So how the retention just gets more complex in that sense? So how do you decipher that?
Well, it's fairly interesting, but let's start with the very basics. I think this nameplate is wrong. Personalization is one of the important retention tools, so let's not get it wrong there. Yes, being a horizontal, it poses different challenges to us because we are dealing in multitudes of categories, and each category has its own dynamics at play, different ways consumers are engaging with the platform. So that adds to the complexity. Added to that, the fact that being a classified platform, customer, I think as a word is being used in a very broader sense here. But for us users and the paying customers who are the clients on the platform, both are important from a retention perspective, right? So you search, say for example, the nearest barber shop on Just Dial. You are a user to me, you are a consumer. But the barber is the one who's my customer because he's paying for displaying his ad at that point of time. So retention also has that dynamics on the platform where you're looking at both the user as well as the paying client and trying to see, how do you apply your strategies over there. The another layer that plays out is we are both a B2B and B2C platform. So the retention strategies and approach for a B2B environment and customers over there is very, very different than how you play it out in the B2C arena. And so a lot of these layers are there when you are a horizontal, and when you're looking at your customer retention strategy, you got to be looking at all of this and trying to figure out what are the basic things you do. But to answer your question in a very short way, what are the things that have changed that I have noticed over a period of time? There are 4 things that I think fundamentally has changed, and I do summarize that at four kind of S, if you may call it that. The first thing is seriousness. I think across the board, whether these are users or consumers or customers, whether this is in B2B environment or B2C environment, everyone wants to be taken seriously once they are on your platform. And you just cannot afford not to take someone seriously. At times what we do as marketeers, one of the mistakes that we make is also in our excitement or enthusiasm to acquire consumers in millions, we often ignore the part that once the consumer is onboarding, how seriously we are looking at that consumer and how seriously we are studying his or her needs and trying to customize solutions. So I think that seriousness is very important, and I think over a period of time I have seen consumers demanding more and more attention from brands. The second thing I have noticed that has changed is seamlessness. Now more and more consumers are asking for seamless experiences. And whether it's omni-channel strategy or any other integration that comes into play, seamlessness is very, very crucial now. And I, as a user of a particular platform, would want you to understand that I reached out to you 15 days ago on your app and I had a certain conversation with your chatbot. and I am probably calling you up now to resolve something, I would expect you to know what I discussed last time. And so that entire seamlessness of experience across platforms, across channels is something consumers definitely want, right? Then, they are looking at speed, which is the third S. Whether it's a consumer or a customer, everyone is in a hurry. And if there are issues, grievances, then there's a different dynamics to that. But even outside of that, when I'm on your platform, I would want everything to be delivered to me in a ZIF. I want solutions now, I want customizations now, I want personalization now, I want incentivization now. So everything is now, and that now is a difficult part to manage. And that is kind of forcing a lot of brands like us to also look at technology in a greater way, because that's the only way to deliver this now experience at scale. And the fourth thing that I have seen changing is what I call the fourth S, which is status. I think a lot of consumers, especially in the B2B segment, but also I do see reflection of that in B2C segment as well, maybe for insurance kind of categories as well, where a consumer wants to be treated like a VIP. And when I am talking to you, you better pay attention to me, and you better know that I'm your paying customer or your paying consumer. And I don't care whether from your perspective I'm a VIP consumer or not, but I want that VIP treatment. I want my issues to be resolved. I want myself to be heard. I want my, I want the thing that I want it now, and you got to be delivering that to me. So I think there are some of the changes that I have noticed that have happened over a period of time, and platforms like, multiple platforms, which are helping resolve these challenges that are there. They are also, in a way, fast-tracking this, accentuating this, and at the same point of time, helping brands achieve this.
Sure. Thanks, Prasun sir. I mean, the 4 S's of customer characteristics, right? Thank you for that. Great anecdote. Thanks, Rahul. Prasun sir, over to you. So, where do we see personalization happening at that level when it concerns Just Dial customers?
Well, not very different from what Yatish or Shashwat, etc. have spoken. The rules of the game are similar. I would want to just give a very interesting example. Sometimes you also have to think out of the box when you're trying to retain a customer or trying to retain customers at scale. So when the pandemic had hit, because a lot of shifts in our way of looking at retention also happened during that period because of behavioral changes, because circumstantial changes, and contextually things were very, very different. So when pandemic had hit, I'm giving you example of my previous assignment, which was at Magic Bricks, which is a real estate portal. And you would assume that when pandemic hit, real estate was one of the last categories that would be there on your mind to do, anything with. So we were actually facing existential crisis as to, all of a sudden you see millions of consumers coming on your platform, looking for real estate investments, and them drying up overnight, living with nothing, and nobody was in a mood to really invest or look at. So that forced us to really go a little deeper and think what to do. You had these millions of consumers coming to you on the platform. How do you bring them back? What do you do during that period, right? And so we started, figuring out the pain points. We started seeing, okay, fine, what is it? We went, he was talking about the consumer journey as such, and mapping the consumer journey. We really did that very extensively. And, we came out with a very, very, it was not a textbook solution. So the solution that we found out was in content. And we said, can we really produce content that helps consumer at this point of time, because the consumer is sitting at home and consuming all kinds of content. Now, can we really develop and seed content which is going to hook the consumer onto the platform and really add value at the same point of time to his or her journey that he or she wanted to have. So we reached out to consumers. There was a bit of personalization involved over there, looking at what kind of houses, etc. you were searching for, what time, what budget, etc., and all those kind of things. And we had converted our YouTube platform on as a content aggregator of sorts called MBTV. And we started producing a lot of content which was around project reviews, which was around property reviews, comparisons, flat reviews, and so on and so forth. Because we did realize that real estate was a category where there was a lot of research that was involved that consumers used to do before. It's a long gestation category again. Consumers are typically with you 6 to 9 months before they take a decision and kind of make a purchase. So we started developing very, very interesting content and started seeding it to consumers, right? And that did saw close to about 60 to 65% consumers coming back onto the platform and starting to consume those kind of content. So we said, hey, why don't you utilize this time to prepare yourself better? You may not want to invest now. You may want to invest, sometimes in future. But since you are extremely interested and whenever the need arises, would you want to be a little better prepared for taking the decision that you wish to take? So that was I think very out of box, kind of a solution that we thought to really retain consumer at that point of time. So these are sometimes, Googlies do come your way, and you got to be really looking at how do you, solve such situations. So yeah, this is one of the examples. Coming back to the point that you're talking about at Just Dial, personalization, again, I said because we operate with multiple layers. So, we have multiple ways to look at personalization as well. And we also see that, Just Dial is a down funnel search engine. Google is at the top end of the funnel where you're searching almost anything and everything in the world. You come to search for something on Just Dial when you are virtually close to making a decision, and you want to really reach out to, the concerned party to really make a decision. And so at that level, we also figured out that there are a lot of consumers who were not really keen about personalization. They were not responding to, they just wanted their need to be fulfilled, and that's about it. So it was really about getting back to segmentation, to really look at, how do you look at different buckets of consumers, and which consumers would respond to personalization more, and which would not respond to personalization. And through our own learning, it was a bit of a trial and error, as Shashwat was saying, you don't have all the answers all the time. So it was a bit of a trial and error, and so that process is kind of an ongoing process. And you keep doing that, you keep figuring out, you keep testing things, you keep figuring out what is working, what is not working, what can be scaled. But yes, there are, over a period of time, you do understand that there are some underlying threads, there are some common traits that you're looking at, there are, some generalizations that you can make and take things forward. So these are some of the things that you do generally to really drive personalization.
Right. Empowering the consumer has always worked for any business, and that's what we can learn from your Magic Bricks example. Before we open the floor for questions, I really want to do a quick fire round with all my panelists here. Maybe your take, a one-word answer to really creating a winning customer engagement strategy, and how do brands solve that? So really quick fire thing. Start with Yatish here.
Remain contextual and relevant.
Great. Over to you, Rahul.
Empathy.
Nice.
I think topicality is the one word I'd say, because it kind of marries the verticalness of segments and the horizontalness of, let's say, context that Yatin was talking about, right? Like in our case, same guy might be listening to devotional music early morning and party music late night. So, the verticals and horizontals need to start fusing together. That's why I'm sort of going with topicality, because it marries both.
Deliver what you promised. I think, as brands, consumers mostly expect to be, to have a seamless experience of what I bought into is what I'm getting. And as long as you've delivered that seamlessly to consumer, I think half the battle is won.
That stresses on the point of seriousness that you mentioned earlier. Great. Angad, your take.
I would say leveraging data, not just for identifying the initiatives which should be taken and what new hooks needs to be built, but also for measuring what you're doing. So you might try multiple things, and things might work for some segment, something might not work for another segment. Having a very good and monitoring system and kind of feedback kind of pipeline to figure out what is actually the best thing to be sent to a particular user segment at a particular point of time. It's all a game of data, I think.
Your call.
Actually, it's hyper-personalization at scale, at the entire customer journey map. do a customer journey map and be hyper personalized at scale for everyone.
Great, thanks. Panelists, thank you so much, for your anecdotes. These 6, keywords for creating a great customer experience is something that every brand should, adhere to. On that note, I would really want to thank all my panelists here. Thank you so much for your anecdotes on retention. I really hope that, all our audiences here are going back with a lot of takeaways and finding the right meaning of the word retention. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists.